Toss a coin to your witcher, O Valley of Plenty, O Valley of Plenty, oh. Hopefully that doesn't get demonetized. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host Con Monroe, and you know I had to start with that. Be sure you hit like and subscribe if you're new while I talk about my new favorite series, both games and TV, with today's list of the top 10 scary Witcher theories. Roll the intro. And at 10, the unicorn. While this may have already happened in the game, the Netflix original has yet to talk about the unicorn that Geralt and Yennefer can include in their escapades in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. One of these scary theories is that this scene is somehow going to make an appearance in the second season of the Witcher Netflix series. I wouldn't say this is your normal version of scary, not like haunting or something that will change the story, but just disturbing. The mere existence of the scene in the game is terrifying, yet now people think that they will establish the lore of this scene in the show. I don't think I could go on in all honesty. It's honestly something the show would do though. They've shown things I've never seen before, something that other shows wouldn't dare even talk about. So in all honesty, they would be able to explain why Yen uses a stuffed unicorn when engaging in relations with Geralt, and assumingly multiple times. And at 9, Ciri will die. The Witcher 3 contains several endings. One of these endings unfortunately contains the death of Ciri. Ciri can be saved, but dies if she feels self-doubt when approaching her final battle with Whitefrost. If your choices throughout the game cause her to doubt her abilities, it will ultimately kill her. And what if the fate of the game Ciri is also said to be the fate of Netflix Ciri? Henry Cavill himself said that while playing these games, he chose Yennefer time and time again. And while it may not seem astounding, if this character decides to betray his in-game choices and go after Yen more over the next season, then maybe they will follow his Geralt story. And we don't know what ending he got during Wild Hunt. Maybe he actually got the bad ending, or maybe even the worst ending where he has failed to do everything he tried to do and he just lets himself die. I mean, it would be a tragic ending, but Netflix has shown worse things. And at 8, Triss is dead. I promise I'm going to be getting to the games soon. In the season finale for The Witcher Season 1, we see Triss create a wall of vines to keep Nilfgaardian soldiers out of the keep. While she holds them off, a guard is able to reach through and burn her with a torch, catching the vines on fire as well. After that, she is seen shaking, bleeding out, and in tremendous pain in the arms of some man. We all know Triss is a strong woman, so having her hold on to life after the battle could make total sense. She was also underutilized in Season 1, just being used to essentially bring Geralt closer to Yennefer. While killing her off would be an interesting take on the subject of Triss, in general it would be making quite a lot of fans angry. It would make sense to keep the story of Yen and Geralt going, but we are bound to see some form of romance between Triss and the Big G, right? Well, hopefully. But what if I told you there was another way that they could have killed her but kept Triss around? And at 7, that isn't Triss. We all know the game Triss look. Bright red hair and some fancier clothing. Now look at the Triss from the show. Brown hair and wearing close to normal robes for the place of power she has. So what if these two characters are not the same person? There is a redhead in the rank of mages that were helping with the battle, and she was helping the mages fight off the Nilfgaardians. So what if, in the wake of Triss's death, this redhead decides to adopt her identity in honor of the one who stood at the front of the keep and took a torch to the chest in order to help save as many people as she could. That way we could get the redheaded Triss we know, but would still have the original the way that the show had intended. It's perhaps not the scariest thing, but I mean, identity theft is pretty scary. Make sure you're always vigilant. She could perhaps go on a rampage with her name. Perhaps she hated Triss and didn't want her to die with such honor, so she uses her name for evil deeds. And Geralt would go check because he knows her, and then he would see that it's not truly her. Netflix, that will be $1 million if you want to use that idea. Thank you. And at 6, Jaskier is a god. I don't mean this in a figurative sense. After seeing several things and piecing them together, I genuinely think that the dandelion is an all-seeing god. Think about it. In Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, Jaskier refers loosely to events that happened in the first episode, which as we now know took place several years before the two of them met. When he first enters the tavern looking for the alderman, everyone tells him to get out or whatever, but then Renfri offers the rest of her breakfast to him, then gets the barkeep to pour him some beer, which is alcohol similar to ale. While it may not be an exact match, both of these events pop up in his song. He's a friend of humanity, so give him the rest. And he defeated the villain, now pour him some ale. He also refers to the elf on the shelf, and the show came out in December, but that's not really my point. He also wakes up at the perfect moment after all the fighting for guarding the dragon egg has been completed. I mean, I know it may be a bit of a stretch, but imagine the consequences of this being true. He would have known the Jinn wasn't under his control, but he made it seem like such anyway. He would have been the driving force for every single event that took place until the end of season 1. He is the reason Geralt has claim over Ciri, but he would be even more so now. And they even parted ways in the same episode where he woke up late and Geralt and Yen broke up. Oh my god. I just convinced myself more. And at 5, Purgatory. What if none of this is real? Or perhaps it is, but in a very messed up way. While Dream Theory could make sense due to Geralt's fever dream in the season finale, I think he's stuck in Purgatory. Let's get into the game. There is an ending in Wild Hunt where he does just sit down and await for death. But what if the series is supposed to take place after this, where he's in Purgatory awaiting judgment? That would explain why the series was jumping around so much. It was showing all the questionable things he did up until he found Ciri. So what if he is currently being judged and waiting for whichever afterlife he gets? It would also explain the odd timeline. And now that he has found Ciri, I'm sure that now they'll show all the good things he has done ever since he came into her life. Fans were complaining about the show's canonicity, so what if that's the way they weave it into the lore of the universe? All the other characters would be dead as well, hence why we see things about Yennefer, Triss, and Ciri, because they're all dead. You're welcome. And at 4, the unicorn is a bard. This is one of the most haunting things I thought of when looking for things for this list. Yes, I thought of it, but it relates to Jaskier being an all-seeing god. How would he see everyone? Perhaps he isn't a god, but a secret mage, and uses objects to see how things happen with Geralt and the others. But how could you see through something with no eyes? You couldn't. So you would need to possess something that has at least fake eyes. What is the most prominent thing that I could think of? The unicorn. It's the perfect thing. It's there at most of the intimate moments, and I'm sure that it would stick around for a little bit before disappearing. So Dandelion could get some info before writing his next song. And in the 3rd game, you ask townspeople about Yen, and one of the residents knows her name based on the song, and knows who she is just based on your description of her. Perhaps he was watching her too. I mean, perhaps Dandelion was watching her, not the patron. And at number 3, witches are real. Well, we have not heard of any monsters in this world. What if that's because we don't really have them anymore? Or due to the witchers, they're all almost gone? The best way I can describe how they would be working is using the show Supernatural. If you haven't heard of it before, the show is about 2 brothers who hunt monsters in the world, but do it secretly. Vampires, werewolves, djinns, and everything, even Krampus. And that could be how witchers would work today. They eradicated most monsters years ago, and we grew accustomed to being without them, so we eventually forgot about them and assumed them all to be folklore and tales to scare children. But what if we don't know they're real because we wouldn't be able to handle it now? The worst thing is when you think the world works one way, but then it changes suddenly, and you have to adapt to the new world but do it poorly because you weren't eased into it. And if the monsters were suddenly real, we would all panic and all lose hope. We wouldn't trust anyone, we would hide inside, and the human race would eventually die out. So yeah, they won't tell us. But maybe the shows like this are getting us into the idea, so it wouldn't be all as shocking. And at 2, this is hell. Where do the monsters come from? Well, magic, right? That's what all the townspeople say, and everything bad comes from magic. Well, those people may be wrong, and in all honesty, with the way they treat their protectors, the witchers, they're sure going to hell. Or maybe they're already there. It would explain a lot, all the magic, the ability to easily summon fire, the monsters who are torturing the townspeople right, left, and center, killing them just so they can eventually be reborn in hell just to be killed again in eternal torment. I mean, the witchers are always being demonized, right? This would explain a majority of the series, but who would the witchers be? Would they be demons? Would they be good people who got sent to hell, so they're trying to escape by eradicating the foes that are keeping them there? And who is the one who does the mutations? A rogue demon? I mean, Geralt says himself that demons don't exist, or is he covering it up? And at 1, the end. This is the most worrisome of the theories in my opinion. Some fans are claiming that the Witcher series will be the next Game of Thrones, with really deep lore, like in the games, and a really compelling story and characters, even if the first season did a lot of time jumping. But after the actual atrocity of what was the Game of Thrones series finale, I'm not sure if that's a good thing. We've talked a lot about the game's different endings on this list. Some the fans thought were great, and others they seemed less keen on. And depending on how they decided to end the series when it eventually does end, some fans will be pissed off. The theory is that they will ruin the series with the ending, and that's something that is the scariest of all time. No, grammar, right? There we have it, friends, the top 10 scary Witcher theories. What did you think of this list? And do you have any theories of your own? Let me know down below, and remember to give the video a like and subscribe for daily gaming content. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.